This is Introduction to Making Comics 101. Greetings, people of the internet. Welcome, mad creators, to the underground laboratory where together we are going to create some awesome comics as part of this series, Making Comics 101. But before we get started with an actual episode, I thought I would take some time to put together sort of a preview episode. Well, I already did the trailer, so if you watch that, you know a little bit about what all this is about. But I did get some questions for that, so I thought it would be a good idea to sort of do an introduction to Making Comics 101. What is it all about? All that kind of stuff. Answer some of your questions so you know going into it what you're in store for. So what is it? What is Making Comics 101 all about? Well, it is going to be pretty much everything you need to know about making comics from start to finish, all the nuts and bolts, everything that goes into making a comic. And it is going to be a series here on YouTube on this channel. I'm going to start with how to get started and take it all the way to publishing and like printing and publishing a book and all the other steps in between. So I want this to be very, very comprehensive. So basically I want to teach you pretty much everything I know about making comics. Well, maybe not everything, but I definitely want to teach you the basics because of course this is the 101 implies that this sort of an introduction. I mean, you're gonna have to do a little bit of homework because there's a lot that goes into making comics. But this is gonna get you started. This is gonna give you basically all the tools you need to go and get started. And but you got to put in the work. So when I say everything I know, that leads me to the next question, which is, who are you and why should I care what you have to say about comics? All right. Actually, I didn't get that question, but I know some of you people out there are thinking about it. So, who am I? Am I a professional comic book creator? Have I worked for the big two, Marvel or DC? Yes and no. So, I create comics professionally. I've been a professional illustrator and designer for many, many years. I've made my living doing cartoons, comics, and all that kind of stuff. My thing really is indie comics. I self-publish my own creator-owned comic book series called Young and the Dead. It is a kids versus zombies story. It's sort of in the vein of Goonies meets Night of the Living Dead. And, you know, I've been featured in anthologies and all kinds of other things. I've done a lot of comic books for clients professionally. And if it's important to you, if it's a deal breaker, no, I haven't worked for Marvel or DC or Image or any of those big publishers. I haven't really had the desire to. Back when I was a kid, I did send some submissions out to some of those companies with some ideas for stories and things like that. And when I realized that they don't really do that. If you want to work for Marvel or DC or those guys, you got to you know, work with their characters, and I love those characters. And if that is your desire to make comics for Marvel or DC, if you want to work on the X-Men or Batman or any of those guys, all this stuff will apply to what you're doing. It doesn't matter if it's indie comics, the big two, or whatever. Everything that I'm going to talk about here is applicable. So question number 3, why am I doing this? Well, one thing is I've got a lot of requests to talk more about comics. I've found that on this channel, most of the content that people really resonate with is my comic book content, and I wanted to do something like this, but there was a lot. It's taken me a while to get around to it because there's a lot that goes into this. This is probably the most ambitious project I've ever done on YouTube. There's a lot of editing, there's a lot of research that goes into it, and it just takes some time. It's taken me a while to put this out. I've also noticed that there really isn't anything else like this, like what I want to do here on YouTube. I've seen a few people that have had ambitions to do something like this, and they've got a few episodes and then they kind of stopped. Or there's just kind of a mishmash of there's certain things here like on a particular topic or over here. You've kind of hunt around. But I wanted to create something that you can watch. You can start with episode 1 and take it all the way through and just get the whole thing like a course. Now, you may find something like this on like a Skillshare or a Udemy. I don't know. I haven't really looked at those platforms. But to my knowledge, there's nothing else like this, you know, free for you guys to watch on YouTube. Now, I mentioned this is a pretty ambitious project, which leads us to the next question. How long is this series? Well, as far as I've pretty much outlined every episodes. I've shot maybe, as of right now, I've shot like 4 episodes. I'm working on some new ones, and I've got some sort of, you know, in various degrees of production. But this series, according to my outlines, it's probably going to go about 21 episodes. Now, there's going to be more content than that because of those 21 episodes or so. Each one of those will probably have like a bonus episode where I dive a little deeper, but there'll be a proper episode and then some bonus content. I'll get into that a little later when I go into some of these other questions. So you'll have 21 episodes plus 21 bonus episodes. If there is a subject that I think may require more than one bonus episode, then I may do that. Now keep in mind, each one of these particular topics, you could build a whole series or a whole YouTube channel on any one of these topics. So again, this is going to kind of give you a starting point on all this stuff, but I encourage everyone to do more research. There's just no way to cover everything there is to know about comics in a series. If you want to get into comics, one of the things you got to learn is that this takes a lot of time and there's a lot of learning that goes into it. But this is definitely going to get you started and on your way. So we've already kind of touched on the next question, which is what is the format? We know we've got the proper episodes, the bonus episodes. How is this thing structured? I mean, you've got all these episodes. Do I have to watch all of them? Is it like one of those comics where, you know, I've got to read this comic and not only do I have to follow that series, but it branches off into other titles and I got to collect all these different things? No, that's not how this works. The way this thing works is I think if you can watch this thing from start to finish. I think you're going to get a lot out of it, but there's no reason why you can't just dive into one particular topic. Say you don't have any interest in drawing comics, you're just a writer. You can just watch the episodes on writing, or maybe you're curious about, you know, the publishing aspect or whatever it is. You can jump in at almost any time. Each episode will sort of be self-contained, but there's a larger kind of arc that, you know, everything kind of fits into. It just kind of depends on your viewing habits. You're more than welcome, and I think you're going to get a lot out of it if you just kind of watch from start to finish, but that's not required. One of the questions I got the most was, so when does this thing start? Well, I'm planning to basically start this next week. It's going to be, I think Monday, January 13th will be the start of this. If everything goes as planned, which I think it should, there's no reason that I know of right now that it shouldn't, but that should be the premiere of the first actual episode where I start going into all that, and that's going to be the episode on getting started. And I think that's pretty apropos considering that's one of the people's hardest things about comics is where do I start? So we'll get into that first, and then we'll just take it from there. We'll just keep going. So that leads me to my next question. What is the schedule? Well, it's going to be a weekly series. I am planning on releasing the sort of proper episodes every Monday, usually. Well, it kind of depends where you're at, I guess. And it could be, I guess it could be even the previous Sunday if you were in Australia or you know, but here in the US, it's gonna start, you know, probably early Monday is when I'm gonna release that. I'm gonna do these as premieres. So I'll be right there in the chat, hopefully each time, you know, if everything goes all right, I will be there in the chat talking with you guys while the episodes are going in the premiere. If you want to watch it live with me, that would be really cool. And then I think on Wednesdays, I am going to release the other episode, the bonus episode that's sort of tied with whatever that previous episode is, where we dive a little deeper on a particular aspect of whatever that topic is. Now, those episodes, I may premiere those episodes as well, where I'll be in the chat and everything. We'll just have to see how that goes. But definitely I want to try to premiere those Monday episodes. But that's sort of going to be the schedule. And another question is, who is this series for? Well, this is for people who want to learn how to make comics, or if you want to learn how to draw comics, or you want to learn how to write comics, or you want to learn how to publish comics, or you want to learn how to ink, or you want to learn how to pencil. Any one of those topics is part of a larger, you know, a larger discipline that's going to take a while to learn how to do. But this is to get you started. Of course, we will have questions and everything, and I'll hopefully try to answer some of that stuff in the comment section. But as far as who is it for, it's for people who want to create comics, or maybe you're just interested in comics. Maybe you're a comic book reader and you don't really care about creating comics per se, but you are interested in the process just as a curiosity. If you love comics, if you want to create comics, if you're interested in the process, if you are kind of on the fence, like I think I want to create a comic, and maybe you start watching this and it's like, this is way too intimidating, and I will try not to make it like that. I really try to be encouraging, because one of the things that we'll get into is anyone can create a comic. And I mean, people's idea of what comics are, basically what you might see on the newsstand. Well, there's not too many comics on newsstands anymore, but out, you know, in the direct market at a comic book shop, that could be a little intimidating, but that doesn't have to be what comics are. Comics can be very simple, and they should be to start, but we're going to get into all that when we get into our episode on getting started. So the next question some of you people might want to know is, what, free on YouTube? So what's the catch? Are you going to start introducing something and then say, you know, like a bait and switch, saying, okay, we're going to talk about this, and if you want to learn more, go to my private, you know, website or whatever? There's nothing like that. Everything that I'm going to talk about will be free here on YouTube. So, you know, why would I be doing this? Why would I just be giving this stuff away? Because I've had people, after they saw my, you know, the preview and everything, they were like, you should really be charging for this. And I definitely understand that. I definitely think this is something I could charge for. I definitely think there's that much value in what I'm doing. There are probably courses you can pay for comics. And again, on YouTube, there's really nothing else like this that I know of. And I want to give back, because this stuff wasn't around when I was a kid. There was some stuff, you know, I had How to Make the Comics the Marvel Way, and there was the Comic Book Greats series on VHS, and you can watch some of those on YouTube. I think they've uploaded some of them, but you know, they had like Todd McFarlane, it was Stan Lee hosting it, had like Todd McFarlane and mostly the Image guys, and they had some, you know, some other creators on there as well. Yeah, I want to create something like that, but even larger, because even if you watch the video on How to Make Comics the Marvel Way, which is a great video, that's somewhere on YouTube, you can find that. It is great, it goes through all that stuff, but it's relatively short. I wanted this to be very informative, and like I said, just touching on the basics is going to take a long time. So again, as far as why I'm doing this, and I will be perfectly honest and transparent, you know, this is also good promotion for me as a comic book artist, as somebody who teaches on YouTube. It does kind of help build a brand and some awareness of me, so that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this. And if you're getting a lot of value from this, I feel like I'm getting so much value, I'd like to give back, but these things are free. I mean, I've got things like, I've got a Patreon, and I've got merch down below, and you know, I sell some digital products on, you know, tools for making comics, all that stuff. So there are ways to support me if you're so obliged, but it's not necessary. It's not part of, I mean, it's not part of this series. There's not gonna be any hard sale or anything like that. This is pretty much, it kind of is what it is. I'm putting this out here for you, and I really just, I want to give back. I mean, that's kind of what this channel has been. In addition to the comic book content, I talk about things like how to make money as an illustrator and all that kind of stuff. Like I said, this stuff wasn't around when I was coming up, and I don't want people to have to go through what I'm going through. And I get a lot of questions, so it's easier just to, you know, make a video on some of this stuff. So that's honestly, that's why I'm doing it. Another question I got a few times in the chat was, what's with the orange lab coat? Now, if you are familiar with my channel, you know that I usually have, I don't know if you can see it, a green lab coat hanging up here. I've got a few, I've always had the green lab coat. That's sort of my staple, that's sort of my brand. But you know, I wanted this to be separate. I wanted this to be a little different, this series. I wanted to separate this series from the rest of the content on my channel. Something new, something different. So and when I designed the logo for Making Comics 101, there really wasn't any kind of lime green in it. It was all like oranges, like warmer colors and things like that. So I figured that the orange jacket, I kind of like it, and depending on what kind of content I do, I may introduce other different color lab coats. I just wanted to switch it up a little bit. So for anyone that cares about that kind of thing, that's why the orange lab coat. But just so you know, the green lab coat isn't going anywhere. Any additional content that doesn't have to do with Making Comics 101, most of it I will be sporting the green lab coat. And you know, and that leads me to one more quote. Well, I might have a couple more comments or questions, but the other one is, what's going to happen with that other content, the stuff, the non-comic book related content? Well, you know, I'm going to continue to do some of that stuff. I will try to center most of what I do around comics, because like I said, I think that's what most of the people that are on my channel are looking for. That doesn't mean other stuff that has to do with just the business of illustration will go away. I'm still going to do that, but I might tie it into comics in one way, shape, or another. I think a lot of that stuff, whether you're pursuing, you know, a career doing comics or as a freelance illustrator or whatever, a lot of that stuff I think ties in together. A podcast that I really like is the 3 Point Perspective podcast. If you guys have listened to that, it's Jake Parker, Will Terry, and the other guy that doesn't like comics, Lee White. But so, you know, I watched that, and it's a lot of great information, but those guys are children's book illustrators. I'm not really a children's book illustrator, but that doesn't mean I'm not getting anything out of it. So even though a lot of this will, you know, be a little comic centric, no matter what you're doing, as far as art, you're going to get something out of that additional content. So just so you know, there will be, you know, it may not be, because if I'm already doing 2 videos a week plus the Artcaster show that I do every other week on my channel, then you know, you may not get as much of the other content, but when if there's a topic or something that comes up, something what people want to hear about, I will definitely put that out, and I'll probably be wearing the green lab coat when I do it. So with this series, there's going to be a lot of comic making content coming at you, and it's going to go on for a while, at least 21 weeks. But after that's over, the next question is what happens after it ends? Again, and I keep mentioning this, but there is no shortage of things that I can talk about as far as comics. Will there be like a comic, making comics, is it 102 or 201? How does that go? I don't know. It's been a while since I was involved in higher education. But whatever the case is, I don't know. I think I want everything that I put out to be accessible to the beginner. And that doesn't mean, and back to when I was talking about who's this for, is this just for beginners? No. If you are a seasoned professional, I still think you're going to get something out of it, whether it's like a refresher, or I might have some different ideas about making comics than maybe you do. And that's another good point that I forgot to mention, is that, you know, everything I'm talking about is sort of the way I do things, and it may not be the right way for you, but I want to put it out there, and you can decide, hey, I like this bit of advice, but you know, I don't know if we really agree with him on this or whatever. That's fine. I can only present to you what I know in the style that I do, but I just want to put the caveat out there that this may not be the right way or your perfect way to do it, but it's my way, and I've been doing this for a little while, so hopefully it will work for you, or parts of it will work for you, and it's kind of, maybe it's like seasoned to taste. But because there is so much content to talk about, so many aspects of creating comics, I will most likely, if this series is successful, I'll probably even dive deeper. I don't know how I will format that. Just take penciling, for instance. If I do an episode, when I do the episode on penciling, I give you sort of the basics. Maybe I'll talk about some of the tools that I use, some different techniques. If I do 2 episodes on that, even if the episodes were an hour long, and they're not going to be that long, they will have to be a little longer, just because, and I might even sprinkle in some just like quick tips or something like that. Who knows? That real quick, maybe less than 10-minute videos. I don't know if I'll do that or not. Even if the videos are under 30 minutes, which I'm planning to kind of keep it like that, depending on what you're looking for, how you view YouTube. Some people, they want some quick takeaways or whatever. Some people, they want something to listen to while they're working on their own project. So I'm going to try to keep them around 30 minutes each, but there's no way to, in doing that format, there's no way to cover all the different aspects. So when the whole thing wraps up, maybe I go deeper into just the topic of penciling or whatever. I could go on and on this if that's something that you guys like. If this is successful enough and everyone's interested in that, I'm more than willing to keep putting out more content and keep talking about what I love about comics and how I create them. That is basically your introduction to making comics 101, what it's all about, all that kind of stuff. Now, if there's something I missed, or if you guys still have questions, be sure to let me know in the comment section, and I will try to answer those, whether that's in the comment section, or if I have to do a little, another update video or whatever. But if I don't do that, then you will see me, the next time you see me will probably be on Making Comics 101 episode 1, which will be getting started. So I look forward to putting that out there. And oh, the other thing that I just want to talk about is that I really do want this thing to be successful. So the only thing I really ask for you guys is, please, you know, if you know people that you think will be interested in this, just share it out. Let people know about it and help build awareness of this project, because I think the more people that watch this, not just for my own selfish needs, but the more people that watch, the more people are going to just learn some valuable insight into the comic making process. So anyway, I will see you guys in a week for the first episode of Making Comics 101. Thank you so much for your continued support. Let people know, and I will see you guys later. That is all. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like what you saw and you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. Also, you can follow me at Serkworks on social media, and now you can support the work that I do on Patreon. Do you like making comics? Then go to Serkworks.com and pick up the Comic Maker Starter Kit. It's packed full of fonts, brushes, templates, and more. And best of all, it's totally free.